Hello? Testing? Is that any better? There's probably some serious lag happening, but you might be able to hear me now. Okay, so I am going to start over again. Welcome to anybody who's just joined us. A Pet For You is here with us now, thankfully doing some modding on the channel. This is TheGlassSpider, and this is my very first, already riddled with problems, broadcast of Total War Rome 2. I'm playing as Pontus, and just catching people up with what I'm doing. Like I was saying, we started out with just 2 settlements here in Bithynia at Pontus and 1 in Galatia at Cappadocia. As you can see, we've taken Trapezos here, the remainder of Galatia at Cappadocia. I took a settlement down here, Side, for strategic purposes in case I want to do campaign against Egypt later. And Armenia was sort of being hostile and sending spies over, killing generals and things. So I decided to take their country. It's a good doorway to Persis down here, which I need for my military victory. And I'll talk more about that a little bit later. So, catching you up on the provinces, since I've been playing a little bit longer than you've been watching. I am trying really hard to keep a good food surplus here because that increases my growth per turn with all of the provinces, and that makes sure that I can build more buildings. For anybody who's unfamiliar with Rome, I've been trying to not build too far above the level 2 buildings unless they just don't take a hit to my food surplus at this point. Because I'm going for growth right now. It's still relatively early in the game. We're just under 200 BC. Well, 183. I've got this one little province down here in Mesopotamia. It was part of the Armenian Empire, and they kind of made me angry, so I went ahead and took them over. And they're at war with one of my current allies, Royal Scythia, I think, and so it was a really convenient time to take them. Like I said earlier, I've got this city down here. I don't intend to take the entire province because I'm not too concerned about it, but I wanted to have naval access on this side of our little patch of empire here. I will probably at a later time go through and reorganize the buildings in each of my provinces so that I have my military buildings around the edges of the empire as I move outwards, and my food production more towards the center so that it's all well protected. I haven't worried too much about that up to this point because I've just been, surviving and growing and things. But once things are really stable, we just finished the war with Armenia, then I'll go back and sort of reorganize the buildings and try to get the maximum food surplus. But I'm doing really well now, so it's not a major concern. I've been learning more about the internal politics happening here, and I sort of let the other families get a little out of control there for a minute, and they currently have 57% of the influence, and they have more court nobles than I do. It all is not lost, though. I'm not at the bottom, as it says here, but I've been making some maneuvers to take care of these other guys. This guy I think is older. He's 44. I think they recently, this guy is the older guy here. He'll probably die a natural death soon, so he's not too much of a threat. This Dionysios is, he's got a lot of influence over here. And even though I'm hurting a little bit for court nobles, I think his gravitas is just so high. I'm going to go ahead and see if we can take him out. And that move worked, so he won't have as much influence over the other family's power any longer. They'll have to build up another statesman or another general. And that'll give me some time to work with some of my other generals and make sure that they get some good battles and more influence. So, Dionysius is gone. What a shame. We lost a few court nobles in the process in the short term, but in the long term, it's probably a better move. So now we get to replace him, and we have a choice from our own family, the Mithridatic dynasty, but that'll cost us another 4 court nobles. There's a candidate from the other families. He only costs money. A second candidate from the Mithridatic dynasty. Oh, and we have someone already in the pool. He's a statesman currently, but he's free, and he's a part of my family, the Pontus Mithridatic dynasty, so I'm going to go ahead and choose him. And as he wins more and more battles, we will get more internal power within the empire. So we have not had a civil war yet, and so that's always a possibility, so it bears watching. And it turns out that he's new, so he needs an upgrade because we have some level 2 hulls for boats going now. So we're going to pay for that upgrade. And you may have noticed that I have an inordinately large number of currency units, whatever they are. I think they might be talents over here, or denarii. I'm not sure what is the currency for Pontus in the Black Sea. And so this is the time to tell you that this is my first run-through of Rome 2. And I am an unabashed cheat when it comes to the money. I don't really have time or energy or desire to screw with it, and it doesn't really bother me that I can just type in the amount of money that I want to use and get through the game. So if it bothers you, I'm sorry, you play how you want. This is how I play. My channel, my game, my money.
By sea or by mountain, sire?
So, taking a look at our units here, I really am enjoying the Pontic army. I love these scythed chariots. They're, you know, not really great for melee, but they can just tear through some ranks on a really good charge. I'm trying to keep, even though I don't care to cheat on the money, I am trying to stay in the positive on things. And for a long time, for the first, you know, I don't know, first few hundred turns or so, I don't know how many it is, it's been 60 or something. I was actually running in the red, and I have been trying to maintain that. So I started out with a giant amount of money, but I have not added to it, and I have been trying to maintain green. So I've got my taxes, I think, low enough to keep people, have got them normal, so people are happy, and we're making a profit. Public order is not out of control. So things are looking pretty good in the provinces in general. I think I've got some instability happening in the Armenian provinces, but that's because I've just taken them over. Yeah, and there's some cultural difference going on, so we'll have, like in Edessa, there's not much I can do about it in Edessa except wait for the provincial instability to slow down or decrease there. And then they'll be in the positive, even with the cultural differences, assuming that nothing else changes. And Armenia is still pretty unhappy that we steamrolled over them. Yeah, we just literally did that this turn. So, yeah, next turn we'll still have pretty low public order, but that'll chill out here shortly. And I believe we have reached peace with them, which brings us to our diplomacy. I try to keep good diplomatic relations with everybody in the world if it's at all possible. If they're really far away from me, like I don't even know who these guys are, we've recently met these guys. I've got a champion roaming around the outer edges of the map here, and so we've met the Roxolani. They are apparently neutral towards us. They just don't like us because we're different. Well, we can't trade with them. We don't have a sea route. And they're far away, and I don't need this for my military victory. And we're way stronger than them, so trade doesn't really matter. But I try to do trade with as many people as I can. That keeps the economy good. And even if you make enemies, if you've got a lot of trade partners, you know, when your enemies fall out of your trade route, it's not that painful. Doesn't seem to be anybody else that I could trade with, except these guys here who hate me, and I will likely have to roll through Parthava if I want to take Persis in a military fashion anyway. But I recently read into the military victory, and it looks like I can probably also create a military alliance and take them over that way. So I may try that with Egypt because they're pretty far away, and a military alliance with Egypt may even allow me to invite them into a war with Persis or Italia later, and so they might be a strong ally, and military alliance apparently counts as control for military victory. I will be testing that, and if you know otherwise, send me a message. You can find me on Twitter. I am TheGlassSpider Games on Twitter as well. That's GlassSpider with only 2 S's though on Twitter. So that's a look at diplomacy here in this particular playthrough while I'm playing as Pontus. We've covered our internal politics, we've covered our structure of provincial development, given you a basic overview of the Pontic region. So it's probably a good time to talk about the victory conditions and show you the strategic map again. We're coming really close. We've got a military alliance here with Bithynia, and so the game is telling me that that counts as having complete control over the entire province here. I was initially worried about having to betray my really good ally there. I really like having them to the west. They actually are helpful. The AI apparently is somewhat pretty good there. Well, thank you, A Pet for You. I'm hoping that would be that'll work out. There's a way to focus the targets for a war, so you can call your ally to join you for a war, and then you can set a city to be the focus, and presumably if your allies are actually helpful or capable, they will send someone to where you tell them, and you guys can sort of descend upon your enemy together. And I see that being a really fun way to do things. So, military conditions, a military victory for the Pontus playthrough. So we have to have all of Bithynia and Pontus, all of Galatia at Cappadocia, all of Bosporus under our control, so we've already got those. And now we're reaching out. We have to have all of the settlements in Egyptus, we have to have all of the settlements in Persis, and we have to take over Italia. And as you can see, Rome is really going crazy here, so they might also be a good candidate for trying to have a military alliance with. It might be really tough to take them out, but the battles might be pretty good. Save before trying. Yeah, that's always a good idea. Save before trying in case you really screw it up. Good old reload. So let's go with that plan. We'll try to do some diplomatic relating here in Egypt. Let's take a look at Egypt. Let's see what we've already got. They like us. They're very friendly, so they're probably going to be very open. They like the fact that we are friends with the Greeks. I've been trying to be friendly with the Greek folk since the very beginning of the game, mostly because they're not in my path at all. So I've been avoiding them. So let's go ahead and talk.
You honor me with your worthy presence. I am but a humble servant of Pharaoh.